On December 12th, 2023, Twitter user The Culturalist posted, "A 23-year-old sculpted this. What is your excuse?" And to be honest, the reception, both positive and negative, was pretty explosive. Hundreds of thousands of likes, tens of thousands of comments. Years later, most people have moved on with their lives. But me? I still think about this tweet. It's totally like a parasitic worm that never quite left my tiny little brain. In my interpretation, it exudes a kind of conservative pride in tradition and a deep spite for recent artists. In short, it's a certified old man yelling at a cloud post. The creator, who is noticeably absent, was Gian Lorenzo Bernardin. The piece is called Ratto di Proserpina, and it is excellent. And now, after years of this bug annoying me, I'm going to make it your problem. People, both in real life and online, complain that art has declined. It's a common topic. Why aren't there more Statue of David sculptures? Or the swing paintings? The true answer to this is more complicated than it first seems. It's not that creators have gotten inherently worse, it's that the world around them and the culture they create in has radically changed. But before we dive in, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sunny Dionysus. I'm an artist, video essayist, and most of all, an annoyance. I make deep dives on art movements for dummies like me. And since I know you're an artist, do you ever want to participate in a website that actually cares about your experience on it? Do you really need that AI Ghibli slop out of your feed to maybe, just maybe, yap about your OCs to an audience? I have a website for you. Unvale, today's lovely sponsor, has a huge art community where original works thrive with so many opportunities for creating. Even if you're more of an introverted artist, the world and character tools on Unvale are great for organizing your stories. On the front page, there is a question of the day section. It creates a sense of camaraderie among the original creators. It's so easy to discover new people, like I was. When Unvale contacted me, I actually already had an account. I use it to catalog my art and just write freely about my OC, Virid. It's nice to have a low-pressure place with a welcoming community. They are also celebrating an anniversary event. Go check them out in the description. It's totally free with no strings attached. Now, on to the video. Following a slow but steady economic recovery after the plague, Italy experienced a flourishing art scene that gave rise to many of the artists that are now celebrated as masters. There were two main systems of artistic patronage in Renaissance Italy. A patron could take an artist into his or her household, and in return, the artist would supply the patron's artistic needs. Or a patron could commission a single work from an artist and employ him until that work was finished. The patronage system was not only beneficial for the artists involved, it boosted the commissioner's status and notoriety in society. Artists were fundamentally a tool for the privileged to exercise power and flaunt wealth. While the motivations behind their support may not have been entirely noble, the results were undeniably fruitful. Artists were compensated handsomely, and their practices thrived because of it. For example, Michelangelo's training as a sculptor was funded by Lorenzo de' Medici, a famously wealthy banker. and a patron of the arts. Creatives also had apprenticeships to hone their craft and to learn under more established artists. This led to a litany of resources for these soon-to-be masters to flourish. Students such as Raphael learned from masters like Pietro Perugino. Partially because of this mentorship, Raphael was able to paint the Sistine Chapel and many more excellent works in his lifetime. While some artists could wear multiple hats, such as sculpting, painting, and drawing, it was in no way a requirement for success. They were allowed to focus on one discipline. No social media needed, or even possible. That's not to say marketing such as references from past clients wasn't involved, but the tools to succeed were more plentiful. However, not all patrons were treated the same. Female commissioners in particular were not allowed to sign legal contracts, a necessity in the art world. Male middlemen sometimes intervened and allowed their continued success, but this was often not the case. Amateur artists of lower economic class were also excluded from this movement, leading to an unfair exclusion of a variety of people from the artistic education system. Masters like Leonardo didn't just wake up a genius. He had the time, space, and support to become one. Still, many people see the Renaissance as the pinnacle of meritocratic art, where only the best could thrive off their inherent skill. This artistic nostalgia overlooks how and why those masterworks were made, and what's changed since then. Picture this: a young artist sits in his room, pages of sketches and drawings scattered among markers and pencils. He's brimming with life and inspiration, scrolling through easily accessible sites like Pinterest and Tumblr in search of art that sparks his creativity. He has access to an overwhelming abundance of artwork, countless styles, voices, and visions at his fingertips. And yet, only a small number of these artists are able to survive solely off of their work. Even in the 2000s, he did not aspire to be a professional artist. The stereotype of the quote-unquote starving artist loomed large, steering him and countless other children away from that career path. I must stress that anyone can be creative. Anyone can have this as their passion, but not many can survive off of art alone. Because social media is critical to most artists' income, we have to be marketers, influencers, and content creators. Artists are forced to wear a multitude of hats just to stay afloat, and these pressures often leave little time or energy for the actual practice of making art. Along those lines, the cost of living has exponentially risen with no end in sight for rent hikes and the cost of food. Especially in Los Angeles, where many creators, such as animators and concept artists, are expected to live and work. At the same time, the lack of artistic public funding in schools has also been an inherent issue, with many children not having the resources to pursue art, even as a small hobby. When making art isn't encouraged at a young age, there is a much lesser chance that the child will continue creating. In the past, artists often had access to structured support. Note that I'm talking about the Renaissance and not any other culture. I really don't want to speak on art that I don't know anything about or culture I don't know anything about. So take it with a grain of salt. Today, that kind of infrastructure is largely missing, leaving aspiring artists to navigate an unstable path on their own. No conversation on the modern artist struggle is very complete without touching on AI-generated images. While there are many points against AI that artists have very much voiced, I want to focus on the devaluation of artistic labor. Back in 2023, when AI was still in its infancy, Jeffrey Katzenberg, a fundamental leading voice in older animated films such as Shrek, predicted that 90% of animation will be taken over by AI. This is obviously impossible right now with current technology, but it does say the quiet, ugly part out loud. However, there is a silver lining regarding copyright in the art field. While very ambiguous for now, January 2025 brought new copyright protections for artists, stating that copyright laws only protect human-made art. This can deter companies from using AI for their properties, like commercials and film series, for fear of people infringing on their IPs. This is very ironic. I understand that. For the record, I do not care if AI images count as art. I care about artists' tangible realities, such as their bills and creative work. I obviously see these images as slop and boring, but that is less important to me personally. If you would like to argue about this in my comments and boost my engagement, sure, why the hell not? Initially, I wasn't even going to touch AI in this video. I didn't want to be redundant because so many other artists have covered it much better. But after seeing my commenters vent in my teaser about how demoralized they are and how they struggle to make ends meet, I want to say more on this. I am begging you to create. If you have a bit of time and interest, I really would love for you to burn that candle just a bit brighter. It's not going to initially look excellent to you, but that truly does not matter. It matters that you made it, and will soon have fun and keep doing it when you can. Improving is addicting once you get the hang of things. Stop looking at AI slop and keep your head to the paper. Jumping off from that, while many artists are fairly obscure in the big picture of it all, there are masters excelling in their fields. I'll highlight two artists that I believe to be masters in today's chaotic world. While there are many non-digital artists that can be considered masters, these are my own personal choices. By the way, when people see the words modern art, it's easy to conflate that with abstractionism. The actual definition is sometimes blurred, as most art movements are, but I want to propose my own choices for modern, recent artists. Michelle Fuss is a digital painter that specializes in her comic, Ava's Demon. Not only are her illustrations incredible, but each panel of her comic is a rendered painting, all on its own. The fantasy element to her work is crucial in creating a dreamy atmosphere, making it stand out from her peers. She has been working on this comic for, I shit you not, over a decade. Michelle has something that many artists struggle to achieve. It looks inspired rather than content. JDB, or Geneva, another artist I look up to, is both a traditional and digital painter whose work draws on fantasy and bright poppy colors. Her work is heavily conceptual, but she also doesn't skimp out on the rendering and detailing. There's an undeniable amount of love and care that goes into every work, and it's obvious she is deeply connected to it. There is a type of inherent beauty of an artist that really gives a shit about their work. She has it in every stroke. Side note, after admiring Geneva's art for a decade, I'm going to see her tabling at a nearby Comic-Con soon. I am so excited. In the end, the art world has not decayed. It's just evolved. But if you want quote unquote master artists to your specific tastes, you have to create conditions where mastery is possible again. Commission artists, advocate for funding, and slow down your media consumption. Today's artists are doing incredible things, not despite the world we live in, but in resistance to it. Thanks y'all for watching. Make sure to subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers!